Hey guys, today I'm gonna upload a video about the mysterious, ever so desired tutorial of blurring faces and stuff, or logos, or whatnot. And more than that, we're gonna learn how to do tracking in After Effects Mocha, and that's awesome. So. Anyway, first we need some footage to track. We'll go ahead and bring that in. So just click open and it pops up right there. So then you just click and drag it down to this little icon here, which is the new composition icon. You can also manually create your own new composition if you want. You can make it however big size, whatnot, but we won't be doing that because it's easier just to click and drag. So then you've got your footage on here. For this tutorial, we're just going to go ahead and take a small portion. We're not going to use the entire clip. So let's say we want to track from, or we want to blur her face from this point to, I don't know, this point or something. So right there I just hit the letter B on the keyboard. B as in boy, and then the letter N here to close off this working area. So that's what they call that. And you can do more detailed After Effects tutorials if you want to kind of understand the lingo better. I'm not really going to take a bunch of time and explain everything. But you can right click there once you have it set up, and you can do trim comp to work area. Now you just basically have this nice clean plate to work with. So now here comes the fun part. We gotta track this thing. Okay, so all you have to do is make sure your layer is selected, okay? And obviously there's not selected, there's selected. Come up to animation, okay? And track in Mocha AE. And then this should pop up. Just click register later. And you've got your dialog here that you can use. It'll give you some options here if you want to change the aspect ratio of the pixels, the frame rate. Just leave everything how it is. That usually detects it, and you're good to go. So then it brings up, you'll notice that the entire clip was even uploaded, but you have nice in and out points here that are precisely matched up with this here, with these. So it's very simple to go in and use Mocha. So what I just clicked there is the go to in point. You can go to out point here to go to the end, but usually you can just start with the beginning here. And we're going to want to track her face. So what we do is we go find a good place that her face is mostly at its kind of open spot. So it's pretty much the same the entire time. There's not going to be a ton of tracking, but you notice that her face does move around inside the frame as I move the camera when I'm filming. So just putting a blur on her face, say at this point, it's going to go off target and it's going to end up somewhere here. So we need to track this. So again, we'll go here and we will use what they call the X-spline tool. So that's this guy up here. And basically it's going to create a layer, or it's going to create a kind of an area that the computer is going to track. Okay, so I'm going to just draw very basic, I mean it doesn't have to be perfect here, little area, and I'm just left clicking all the way around, and then once you're done you'll notice that the mouse kind of clicks, or the point stays with the mouse. You just right click once you're done outside of it, and you can, and then it closes it off. So then you can come up in here and you can kind of get real picky if you want, but you actually don't really need to. Mocha is an awesome program and does a great job at tracking everything, regardless of your imperfections. So you'll notice it created a layer. You can rename this if you want to get organized, and I recommend it if you have big projects, but for this we'll just keep it simple. So once you have that made, make sure that your layer is selected, because if it's not, if it's just like this kind of light purple ring, it's not, you're not going to be able to change any of the options here. So make sure you're selected. You can click that, or you can come and click up in the layer here. And the next thing you have to do is set up your parameters for your tracking. So this is kind of your parameters area here. Don't worry about changing anything here. This is all more advanced stuff that maybe I'll do later, but for this and for LAHWF, blurring faces is a very common thing, and if you guys want to go out and do your own social experiments, you might end up needing to do this, not only to people within your videos, but this works with logos, this works with anything you want to track and you want to put something on it, so even like kinetic text, stuff like that, but we'll get into that later. So for now, Mocha is just for gathering your data, and you can then use that later in AfterEffects to composite your stuff. So make sure it's selected on luminance, and minimum percentage of pixels used is basically, I mean, you don't ever really need to worry about that. Depending on the type of track you want to do, you can unselect these and just do translation. Translation is your X and Y coordinates, so up and down, left and right. Scale obviously is the scale of the thing, so if you have an image coming at you and you want to track it and keep the text the same size throughout the entire thing or something, then, or the blur, then that's that. Rotation, and that's pretty clear. Shear is kind of the same, or in the area of perspective, and that's the distortion and stuff. So Mocha is actually super powerful, and you can do some really advanced tracking with it, and then obviously use that tracking information for some really advanced compositing. You'll find out that a lot of professionals use this software, use this stuff, but I enjoy it because it's super accurate, super powerful, super easy, and it does a great job for this. So, and just as a side note too, there's probably a billion ways to do this, so don't hate on me in the comments saying that this way is stupid, because this is the way that I've found that I like. It works well and it's easy and whatever. So if you don't like it, great. If you do, feel free to use it. So I usually check all of them just so I have options later on. You can always take away tracking data later on in AfterEffects if you need it, but you might as well just capture it just in case you feel like you want it. This next part here, large motion, small motion. I mean, if you're tracking something that's shaking all over the camera, large might be, or all over the frame, large might be a good option. Small, obviously, is not so much. If you scrub through this, see there's not a ton of, I mean, there's a little bit of, I don't know. It's not like you're going to go wrong either way. I would just keep it on large because there is enough motion that you want the thing to know to keep looking. But this is a great example here. Obviously the first frame is perfect, like if we just had that, but then obviously you see when the camera moves, it goes all over the place, so that's not going to work. So that's a good example to see why tracking is necessary. So yeah, now that you have your stuff all set up, you can go over here. This is called the tracking button palette thing. That's the official name. Please quote me on that. And you'll notice that you can only track within your in and out points, so once you made sure those are set, there's a track forward by one frame button, so you can just track one frame at a time to make sure your track is good, or you can just click track forwards and that'll go throughout your entire in and out point here, or your blah blah blah. So I'm going to go ahead and click that and let the computer do its magic, and you'll notice that it's following her face pretty well. Keep your eye on it, make sure that it's not going all over the place. It rarely ever does. In fact, I've never experienced that. But yeah, then it's done. So you see it went that fast. And then you can scrub back through and kind of examine your thing. You can even hit space bar and watch it in real time. You can kind of see, and it'll just go backwards, and it'll just keep replaying this one little part, your in and out points. So you'll see it keep bouncing back and forth between the in and out points here. So this is a great way to kind of watch it a few times to really make sure that every part of it is perfect. Okay, so we can see here that it's very clear that we got an awesome track. We have no problems there. Everything stayed nice, clean on her face. It almost looks like she has some weird ceremonial outfit on there. So anyway, now that we have our data, it's already tracked, it's all nice and perfect. Now what do we do, right? Okay, so this little fancy button, export tracking data. This is the one you want. Click it, it'll bring this little thing up. You can click any one of these here and you can get different options. Usually transform data does the trick. I usually like to do corner pin just because it's funner, I guess. I don't know. There's reasons behind all these. I won't go into them now, but let's just do corner pin for now, I guess. Well, no, let's do transform data for now because this is super basic. Transform, if you'll notice, is kind of similar to translation, and they're kind of the same things. and it lists here the only 4 things that it actually tracks and will copy over, and it will only copy the anchor point, position, scale, and rotation. And for this track, all you really need is position, maybe a little rotation, but the scale is basically the same because she doesn't get any closer to the camera. So anyway, just go ahead and click copy to clipboard, and then you can go ahead and hide Mocha if you want, or if you're on a PC, I don't know, minimize it, I guess. Then you've got your stuff on your clipboard. Then all you got to do is come back here, right click, click new, and then click no object. Okay. You can see this red bar come up. This is the layer here. You can see a little red square. Go ahead and just click on that. Make sure you're at the very beginning. Okay. If you're out in here, it's not going to work. Make sure you're at the very beginning, and then click edit, paste, and you'll see this weird snake-looking thing. And what that is that's just a visual representation of the tracking data that the thing picked up. So you can always hide this because you don't want a red square bouncing around. And you want to come inside your null into the transform data, and you'll notice that there's keyframes on everything, on the anchor point, position, scale, rotation. One thing that you can't forget is if you have anchor point and position, these are exact inverts, or opposites of each other. So if you have them both on, or if you have keyframe data for each one, whatever is copying this thing is not going to work. So make sure for this type of thing, for blurring someone's face, for matching the same motion to something, make sure you take off the anchor point. So just click that little time point or that little stopwatch, and it'll erase all those keyframes. So then you're all set. So go back to that, and you've got this nice null here. You can even rename it to like girl face track or something, and it comes in handy when you've got a lot of stuff, like a lot of layers and shapes and whatnot. Anyway, so the next thing you want to do is right click and click new adjustment layer. And again, this is how I do it. You guys probably have your own ways, or maybe you don't since you're watching this. But again, this is not the only way to do this. Feel free to explore and invent your own ways. But this is how I like to do it because it's easy. And then all you got to do here is click on the adjustment layer. You know, you can zoom in a little bit here, and draw a mask around the area that you want to be blurred. So you'll notice that I only tracked this part of her face before, but I want to actually blur everything, including her hair and all that. So, not a problem. Since you have your tracking data, as long as her hair is attached to her face, now that sounds weird, but as long as those two things move at the exact same pace and direction, then you're fine. You can parent it, you can blur whatever you want, as long as it's attached. Obviously, like if I were to use the tracking data I got from her face here and try to blur out like Andrew's face or something, that wouldn't work because his face is moving differently than hers. I know that seems really stupid and self-explanatory, but a lot of people forget that. So you can push the G button or the G key on your keyboard and draw as meticulous of a mask as you want. I usually just keep it really simple because it's blurring and it doesn't need to be precise. I'll keep it pretty specific here so you can see what it's capable of. Okay, but you'll notice right now that there's absolutely no change. Nothing. It's because that's what adjustment layers do. Adjustment layers, basically, any effect you apply to them, anything you do to them, also applies to every single layer underneath it. So say you have a project and you've got 16 video layers of, you know, different things, and pretend you wanted to add a contrast filter or whatever to each one of those videos. Instead of dragging a contrast effect to each single one of those video layers, which would take, you know, how much ever time it would take to drag 16 things down, you can just make an adjustment layer and drag that filter to this, and it will apply to everything, so it saves a little bit of time. This works for this as well because I just want to draw a mask and have this mask follow without affecting any of the video or any cutout. But anyway, the reasons behind it aren't as important as the process. So once you have your mask drawn, all you got to do from here is still make sure you're the front, make sure everything is good, and then just click and drag the adjustment layer's little pigtail thing, its parent tool, to girl face track, like that. And you'll notice over here that If you follow the track over, it'll say parent above, and you can click, and it'll have a little box or a little circle around that. You can also just manually do it if you really want, but it's kind of satisfying to do this. Okay, it's cool, huh? Cool. Now, what that has done, and that has tracked, or that has made so this layer follows her face. See that? See how cool that is? Now it's not perfect. Like obviously we could go in and adjust it more if we wanted, but that'll do just fine. Especially for this. So all we gotta do now is go find whatever effect we want to add. So a Gaussian blur, a Gaussian, however you want to say it. Feel free. And then come in here and blur the crap out of it. Another thing you can do is you'll notice it's kind of rigid around the edges. Come to the adjustment layer, come to the mask, and you can expand it a little bit to give some leeway around the edges. And then always I like to feather it to kind of give that look. So it's pretty simple. And it's definitely not blurry enough if you want to hide her identity. So pump that blur up like so. And you'll notice now that when I hit play, her face is all nice and blurry. And it follows her face perfectly. Okay? So I know that seemed kind of complicated and kind of cumbersome, but once you get good at it, once you do this process a lot, it's actually very, very fast. And you can I mean, After Effects has like a little point tracker inside, I think. I don't know if it's in effects. I haven't even, that's how little I know about it. But it does have a 3D camera tracker, which is cool. But for planar tracking and for tracking entire objects like a face or a surface, I recommend Mocha because it's seamless within After Effects and it gathers much better tracking information than a point tracker does. Because with Mocha, what it does is it actually tracks the entire surface. It looks at the entire surface of this, whatever this is, and it tracks it. It doesn't just look for one little point that has more contrast than the rest of its surroundings. So this works a lot better with fast things, motion blur, you name it. It does an awesome job. And 99% of the time, you'll be surprised at what Mocha can actually successfully track. Okay, so there you go. There's your face blurred. It's pretty fancy. Yeah, so let's do another thing real quick. Let's try adding some text to Andrew. So I'm going to go ahead and just, I don't know, hide that, lock it, just to keep it if I want it. And what we're going to do now is we're going to track some text to Andrew's pockets. How's that sound? So you go find a nice little place where the pockets are good and visible. Sorry, not invisible. And you do the exact same process. I'll just track his whole shirt here so you can kind of get an idea of what you can do with the data. Okay, I'll just make sure it's on the shirt. And we have another layer. You can tell here I'll rename this one to keep it simple or not. Oh yeah, you gotta like click a few times. Yeah, double click or something. Andrew shirt track. How's that? Okay, so make sure that it is selected, as you can tell, and you can track forward and backwards. So I'm going to start tracking from this point here. I'm going to make sure perspective is done. It's going to be large. It's fine, and I'll go ahead and track backwards first. Okay, and you notice that it's falling. And it's doing a pretty good job. Just keep your eye on it. Make sure it's not too absurd. Now, what's cool about Mocha is I just hit the spacebar there. You can actually stop it right in the mid-track, and you can keyframe things. So I can move this information around, and I can say, okay, keep going. And what I'm doing there is I'm trying to avoid her head. Because Mocha usually does an okay job with tracking around stuff like that, but you might as well avoid obstacles if you can. So keep tracking. Oh. Okay, we'll move that up and finish your track up. Okay, so you'll notice these little green diamonds popped up. Those were points that I decided to change the track, and you notice that the thing slowly works that way. So yeah, go. I think there's a little button here to go to next. No, those are set to out points. I should know this stuff. Okay, go to previous keyframe, do that to make sure you're right on that. Then you'll see that the purple bar above it, right up there, that means it's been tracked and it's gathered data. There's a little red section back here that I need to come up and finish. So I'll just come and click on the go to the next keyframe, right where I need to be, and then I just click track forward. And Ender should keep walking, not a problem. Okay, so it tracked it. It looks okay. It's maybe not perfect. I could probably go tweak it for hours and hours, but you know, this isn't something that's going to be final. It's just kind of an example. So you can go back and watch it again. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so I'll just go back and I will click the same button, export tracking data. This time I'll do corner pin. Supports motion blur because I like motion blur. And I will come up and hide Mocha again, get rid of it so it gets out of my way. And what we'll do here is create another null object. Okay, and we can rename it Andrew shirt track. Okay, you can hide it even right now, and make sure you're at the beginning again. Click it, then edit, paste. Okay, so this time I actually added a different effect. It's called corner pin. What this is it has more perspective to it. So this is kind of cool. Now, all I do since it's hidden already is I just create new text, and we'll create like LAHWF or something. I don't know. And you go ahead and just position it however you'd like. I'm going to make this text 3D. We're going to try to match it up a little bit to Andrew's shirt. Okay, like so or something, I don't know. And that's looking okay. And then all you got to do is take Andrew's, or no, sorry, I'm going to put that down there. So the LAHWF text layer and parent it to girlfit, just kidding, Andrew's shirt track. And once that's tracked, you can turn on the motion blur there, and you can go ahead and scrub through your video and see how it looks. Okay. So I mean, I could go in and tweak it a little bit more, but turned out okay. I don't know what it is about that beginning part there. It kind of got retarded. There's a frame that, see that? That's not right. But who cares? This is not, it's just for example. So that kind of stuff you kind of have to go in and tweak yourself. But this is a great example of motion tracking. It's pretty basic stuff. And like I say, this is just an example of two things. You could put another, you could track an image to her face, make her have a smiley face or something, or as I did with the stealing cell phones, you can track other videos, you can track green screen videos, you can track other elements. This is basic knowledge for tracking and compositing anything within another scene. Anything. So texts and blurs, like that's kind of the basic stuff. You can be inventive and do your own stuff. Anyway, so yeah, that's that. Okay, see you guys. Hopefully this video was helpful. Let me know what other kind of tutorials and stuff you want, and I will help you learn and stuff. Okay, see ya.